I'm going to preview the 2 seed TCU versus 3 seed Notre Dame women's basketball game, which will literally be played on March 29th at noon Central Time on ABC. And as of right now, Notre Dame is favored by 4.5, and TCU on the year is 33-3, 16-2 in the Big 12, while Notre Dame is 28-5 on the year, 16-2 in the ACC. And yes, I know it is a rematch, which makes this intriguing. Because you remember back in the Cayman Islands, Notre Dame did lose to TCU by 8 points. Will a seed upset like occur, but in the opposite direction, or will TCU win again? We're gonna have to wait and see what happens and all this. So, what are some players to keep an eye on for TCU? And I know they don't hardly use their bench. I know they don't. They're usually like 7 or 8, like 7 at times. And yes, they do play 8 as well. And I'll just go over like some of those players just in case, like really 2 more players extra than 7, just in case of foul trouble and all this. So obviously, the first player I'm just going to go ahead and mention, number 13, Sodona Prince, number 13, 6'7" center. That is a senior. 17.5 points per game, 9.5 rebounds per game, 1.9 turnovers per game, 1 steal per game, 3 blocks per game, 2.4 assists per game, 2.3 fouls per game, 70.8% on free throws, on 137 attempts, 1 for 5 on threes. But she can make mid-range jump shots. There's obviously Donovan Hunter, number 4, 6-foot guard. That's a sophomore, and you could tell she was, when you look at her stats, she was at actually Oregon State last year. 6 points per game, 2.8 rebounds per game, 2.7 assists per game, 1.4 turnovers per game, 1.2 steals per game, 1.9 fouls per game, 71.4% on free throws on 21 attempts, 36% on threes on 89 attempts. And there's obviously Madison Carter. That's one of the big 3. Besides Sodona Prince, and you'll know who the last one is when I mention her name. And Madison Carter is number 2, 5'11" guard. That's a senior. 14.6 points per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, 3.7 assists per game, 2.2 turnovers per game, 1 steal per game, 2.3 fouls per game, 82.4% on free throws on 68 attempts, 45.5% on threes on 275 attempts. There's Agnes Emma Nopu, number 21, 5'9" guard. That's a senior. 6.6 points per game, 5.9 rebounds per game, 0.7 blocks per game, 1.2 turnovers per game, 2.4 fouls per game, 78.6% on free throws on 20 attempts, 36.4% on threes on 129 attempts. And there's the one last of the big 3, and I'm not doing this in any like points per game order here because it does not show that option on ESPN on the iPad, unlike the phone and online, to be honest. And Haley Van Lith is number 10, 5'9" guard. That's a senior, 17.4 points per game, 4.4 rebounds per game, 5.5 assists per game, 1.2 steals per game, 0.6 blocks per game, 2.9 turnovers per game, 1.9 fouls per game, 81.7% on free throws on 64 attempts, 33.7% on threes on 187 attempts. And I'm going to just mention the first 2 players for TCU because they usually off the bench, just because they usually play more than the last 2. And that's Aaliyah Roberson, number 23, 6'2" forward. That's a junior. 5 points per game, 2.6 rebounds per game, 0.6 turnovers per game, 0.8 fouls per game, 75% on free throws on 36 attempts, 49.2% on threes, but that's only on 59 attempts. And there's Taylor Bigby, which she was a starter, and now she's off the bench. Recently, number 1, 6'1" guard. That's a junior. 6.1 points per game, 2.5 rebounds per game, 0.7 turnovers per game, 0.7 turnovers per game, but like I said, 1.6 fouls per game, 48.4% on free throws on 31 attempts, 32.2% on threes on 115 attempts. And might as well just go over like Deasia Merrill just in case. She does play for TCU, number 3, 6'1" forward as a senior. 3.9 points per game, 2.6 rebounds per game. One steal. One foul per game, not one steal. 69.6% on free throws on 23 attempts, and no threes attempted, of course. And the last player I'm really going to mention is Una Jovanovic, number 5. 5'9" guard. That's a senior, 2.1 points per game. That's really it. 1 for 2 on free throws, 17.4% on threes on 23 attempts, and she did play more last year, as you can tell by the numbers and the number of starts. But that's besides the point here. So, what are some players to keep an eye on for Notre Dame? I'm trying to get to it right now. Apologize for the delay here. Leatu King, number 20. A 6-foot forward that is a senior, 11.4 points per game, 10.4 rebounds per game, 2 steals per game, 1.9 blocks per game, 2 turnovers per game, 2.1 fouls per game, 50% on free throws on 60 attempts, 0 for 2 on threes. And there's Maddie Westbeld, number 21. 6'3" forward, that's a senior, 7.7 points per game, 2.9 rebounds per game, 1 steal per game, 1 block per game, 1.1 turns per game, 2.3 fouls per game, 76.9% on free throws on 13 attempts, 31.9% on threes on 47 attempts. There's Hannah Hidalgo, number 3. 5'6" guard, that is a sophomore, 24.1 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 3.7 assists per game, 2.8 turnovers per game, 3.7 steals per game, 2.2 fouls per game, 86.3% on free throws on 183 attempts, 40.8% on threes on 152 attempts. And there's Olivia Miles, of course, number 5. A 5'10" guard is a senior, 15.5 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game, 5.9 assists per game, 2.6 turnovers per game, 1.4 steals per game, 1.8 fouls per game, 78.6% on free throws on 103 attempts, 40.1% on threes on 177 attempts. And she could go to the WNBA draft this year. She could. But will she? That's the question. Because she does have an extra year, I believe. But let me check real fast before going forward. Yes, she does have another year, if she wants to use it. Keyword, if. And it's obviously number 11, Sonia Citron, number 11, 6'1" guard. That's a senior, 14.2 points per game, 5.4 rebounds per game, 2.7 assists per game, 1.8 turnovers per game, 1.9 steals per game, 0.9 blocks per game, 2.1 fouls per game, 90.1% on free throws on 71 attempts, 38.1% on threes on 134 attempts. So that's really the main, the starters for Notre Dame. Now I'm going to go like 3 other bench players for Notre Dame, and it's Kate Koval, number 13. 6'5" forward. It's a freshman, 5 points per game, 4.7 rebounds per game, 2.3 turns per game, 1.7 blocks per game, 2.2 fouls per game, 69.7% on free throws on 33 attempts. And there's Liza Carlin, number 32. 6'2" forward as a senior. 5.5 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, 1.89 steals per game, 1.5 turnovers per game, 1.7 fouls per game, 76.9% on free throws on 13 attempts, to 52.9% on threes on 17 attempts. And the last player I'm really going to mention for Notre Dame is Cassandre Prosper, number 8, 6'2" guard. That's a sophomore. 5.8 points per game, 3.8 rebounds per game, 1.8 turns per game, 0.7 blocks per game, 1 steal per game, 2.1 fouls per game, 64% on free throws on 50 attempts, made a 30 or threes on 42 attempts. So across the board for both of these teams, do this for your seniors. Look at the number of seniors for both of these rosters, especially when you look at TCU's, because I do not think whatever they're doing this year is going to be easily it's not going to be replicated for next year. I don't think that's going to happen, because look at the top scorers. Most of them are going to be gone. The top 4 out of 5. It's not including the number of seniors they have. And I know they do have one that's waiting in the wings for next year, and Matty Shear for TCU. But look, when you look at all those losses, especially, like I said, the top players, that's a problem. I mean, you got to make adjustments on the fly. You can't be intimidated by each other. You got not just for the first half, the second half, but throughout the quarters as well. You got to adjust to the officiating. You got to be more mentally tougher team. You got to out-hustle the other team. You got to be good in late game situations. You got to limit your foul trouble while getting them in foul trouble. And I do find this is an intriguing matchup because it's a game that was played back in November. And on defense, you got to contain the shooters, contain the slashers. You got to force some turnovers. Of course, get some points in the paint. Of course, you got to make your free throws count on offense. You got to get some second chance points as well. Fast break points, points in the paint. And points on turnovers especially. Well, of course, on defense, you want to limit all that. Of course you do. I mean, you can't let them live at the free throw line either. I mean, that's just another thing. Right there. And you have, literally, whoever wins this game, if TCU wins this game, they're going to the first Elite 8 in program history, where they're probably more likely than not are going to play Texas, but then it's against Tennessee for Texas the next game here. And of course, Notre Dame wants to go to Elite 8 for the. I'm just trying to look it up real fast, y'all. Apologize. Yeah, TCU's never been to an Elite 8 in women's basketball. Will they do it? That's a question. And Notre Dame's tried to go back to the Elite 8 for the first time since 2019. So it's either first time ever or first time since 2019. We're going to have to obviously wait and see what happens in this type of game. And you got to contain your emotions. And do not get texts or flagrant fouls. Anything like that. So, anyways, if you like this content, hit the like and subscribe button. See you guys later on the road to 800 subscribers. Of course, ultimate goal is 1,000 or more. So remember, this course, like a video, comment video really helps YouTube algorithms. More people see us, sharing the video does help as well. So more people could watch it. If you're watching and not subscribed, hit subscribe button, free the notification bell as well. And you need to try to take away the opposing fan base as much as possible while getting your fan base involved. I mean, that's another key in all this. And you got, like I said, you got to make adjustments from first half to second half and during those quarters as well. You got to be good in late game situations too. It is important.